Well, welcome back to another episode of Let Her Boss. We have a guest today, and I'm going to let her tell us a little bit about her story as of where it started today. So, Sunnie, you want to tell us about your story and what you do?
Well, my name's Sunnie, and I own Resonate Health Spa here in Newberg, Oregon. We offer natural services, facials, hair removal, sugaring, infrared sauna, massage, yoga, and energy work. So I opened the spa about 3 years ago. And so do you want me to go into like the background of it?
Well, I'd love to know,
Or do you want
how
to start?
I'd love to know how entrepreneurs, what inspired you to open up your own spa? Now, it sounds like you had a background in skincare and you work foreign to the world now, but what really sparked you to start your own business?
So I started out as a massage therapist when I was 19. And honestly, I don't even know how I really got led into it. There was like I was like 18, 19. I was working at a grocery store and I'm like, what am I going to do with myself? And I was kind of a troubled youth, grew up in a really traumatic home. And I was very independent, very stubborn, and I didn't like people telling me what to do. So I was a little bit lost for a while, and I just saw a commercial for massage therapy school, and I just was like it was like magnetic. I was like, I need to do that. Never had a massage before, never even went to a spa, and I just started going to school for massage therapy. And I realized that I'm just kind of a natural nurturer. I like to make people feel good and feel better. So I really enjoyed going to school for massage, and I started working at a day spa in Huntington Beach. Really enjoyed it, but I was doing a lot of massage and it was really hard on my body. And I had always had really bad acne ever since I was 10. So my skin was really important to me. I had a lot of just kind of low self-esteem about my skin. So the day spa I worked at had another esthetician there, and she started working on my skin, and I could see huge changes just after like a couple of months. So I was like, I want to be an esthetician too. Like, I want to help people with their skin. So I went back to school to be an esthetician and completely fell in love with that. I just was like super passionate about it. Started incorporating that, doing massage and skincare, and really built up a large client base there in Huntington Beach. But then I had a kid, and my husband and I, lots of things happened, and we wanted to move out of state and buy a house and, do all those things. So I moved out here 15 years ago and kind of had to start all over again, right, with a client base, not even really thinking about that. Like, it's hard work to build a client base in the beauty industry. Like, it's all about relationships and word of mouth, and it takes time. So came out here, had to restart, and I kind of hopped around. I was at like a hair place over off Sylvan Road by the zoo, just a couple of hair stylists, no street signage, and I just, for a year, hustled. But then we wanted to buy a house out here. So I decided, okay, I can't be independent. I'm going to actually have to go get like a job, like working for someone so I could get a W-2 so my husband and I can show income to buy a house. So I went and worked for a friend. Actually, she lives here. Her name's Katrina Higgins. I don't know if you know her. She had a spa and she was doing nails, and I went and interviewed, and she hired me as an esthetician. And her husband, Philip Higgins, helped my husband and I buy our first home out here. So we've been friends with them forever, love them. So worked for her for 4 years, I think. And then she kind of had some changes in her life. And then I went back to renting, being independent. And I really liked just kind of having that control over what I do. And so I kind of jumped around, and then I went to another spot and rented, but we had a home out here in Newberg. So I was going like to Tigard to Newberg, which isn't that far. But having young kids, I was like, okay, I really am feeling called to be in Newberg. I'm feeling called to be closer to home. So I moved out to Newberg and started renting just like a room at a space. I kind of was just like, I would just find a room in an office building or at a chiropractic office or whatever, just to be independent. So doing that for so many years is great, but you kind of don't have like this sense of community, working with other practitioners. And I was also aging in the industry. I've been doing this for 20 years, so I really was feeling like I wanted to start mentoring other estheticians and passing on my knowledge. So as I was in the single room for a while, it was great. I realized that I wanted to do something bigger than just me in a room. And this fire kind of burned inside me, and it coincided with me having some health issues. I actually had severe health issues that I realized years after were the result of getting breast implants and getting in Botox injections. And so in my 30s, I had kind of gone down that route of like plastic surgery. I got implants, I was getting Botox, and really soon after I started having significant health issues for the course of like 5 years. I lost half my hair. I was autoimmune. I had thyroid dysfunction, severe anxiety, suicidal depression. It was really bad. And I didn't know what was wrong with me. And my biological mom has severe mental illness. So there's like a part of me that's like, oh my gosh, am I going crazy? Like what's wrong with me? And what that did to kind of coincide with Resonate Health Spa is I had to really kind of dig deep into myself, go like outside of my physical vessel and try to figure out like who I was as a person, and really went to counseling, had to work on my self-worth and just connecting in with what I call like my higher eternal, like holy self, and really like, what does she need? What does she want? And so I kind of started on like a really intense spiritual journey of like healing, old wounds, ancestral wounds, things like that. So around that time, so I found this Facebook group. And because I couldn't take it anymore. And like I was in the shower and like kind of had divine inspiration of like, your breast implants are making you sick. Whether it was like my guardian angel or God or whatever you want to call it, I was like finally ready to know the truth about why I was struggling. Sometimes I feel like you have to struggle. You have to suffer sometimes to kind of get to a certain place. So I found this Facebook group and found like over 100,000 other women having the same issues as me, and they were getting their implants removed and their health was returning. And so I decided to do that. So I went on that journey, got my implants removed, stopped doing Botox injections, and it took about 1.5 years, but my health completely returned. And so I knew, for a fact that was the problem. And I have just like countless hours of research about the topic and like to share my story. I also wrote a punk rock song called Toxic Tits, where I play the drums, and there's a music video my husband and I made. Yeah, Toxic Tits, soul-sucking, mind-numbing.
For Scott, well, this is Breast Cancer Awareness Month. So we've been doing a lot of talk about, health and breast cancer and how to take care of yourself. And so I had just heard a little bit about your story from Liana, and I love that you're willing to share that, not to go on a plastic surgery binge here, but I love to hear estheticians that are coming from the side, you being in the beauty industry and coming from a place of finding an alternative to putting foreign things, as I just had my Botox. But it's so true though. We don't always think about what we're putting our body in. There's so much pressure right now to look a certain way and not age and all that. And so to tell your story of like how there's alternative ways and what that is doing to you long term.
Yeah, you don't know until you know, right? Yeah. Like nobody was going to tell me not to get breast implants. Again, I don't like being told what to do. Nobody's going to boss me around. I had clients that were like, don't do it. No, that was so-and-so. It's not going to happen to me. You never think it's going to happen to you. And there's also, I think I have a gene mutation that I don't detoxify as well as, Susan, right? For an example,
Exactly.
where like it hit me harder sooner, where Susan could have had her implants for longer and maybe it took longer for her to notice problems, but they're ticking time bombs. I mean, they're going to cause problems eventually. The rupture rate's really high. And I have my implants. I wanted them back. And my son threw one down on the ground and it popped open and it's just like all oozy and like, so for me, it's just like, I just suffered so much that I can't in good faith like recommend them. But I know everyone has their own journey and things that they're supposed to do. I feel like I actually had to go through that in order to get where I am. Like, because I was so insecure and lacked confidence and just didn't have a good emotional foundation as a youth that I just felt like this is what I need to do to feel pretty and to be liked. And I'm in this industry, I'm supposed to look perfect. And even though they looked amazing, I was like literally dying and felt horrible. And so now I like love my natural body. Like my breasts look very different than they did before I had kids, when I had implants. So I went through getting implants, having 2 kids, and then now not dealing with getting to have my natural breasts. And a lot of women are getting breast cancer and having to, that be their only option, to have their only other option be, well, here's your other option to look good, but you could get another type of cancer. Like mine were recalled for causing a rare type of lymphoma cancer.
Wow.
And all my blood work was actually looking to that direction. So they're really dangerous. And, but there's a lot of things that are dangerous, right? So we have to pick and choose what we want to do. And sometimes you don't really learn the lesson until you've experienced hardship. So that kind of leads me into Resonate Health Spa, right? Because I was a solo practitioner going through like all this intense healing. I had all these amazing clients that like sometimes, like aside from my family and my kids, sometimes my clients were like the only reason I had to like put my clothes on in the morning and go like focus on someone else besides myself. And that like really got me through a lot of hard times. So I'm really thankful for my clients over the years, because a lot of them, like, I feel like saved my life. Otherwise I'd just be in bed crying and depressed and want to kill myself when I was going through those hard times.
Yeah.
So then COVID hit. But
Yeah, they closed you down, right?
It closed me down, and it just like put like not everybody, a lot of people were kind of chilling, you know, like, oh, well, I can't work. And I was like, no, like it like put gasoline on my fire of, I was just feeling like called to grow and create more space and bring in more practitioners and just do something bigger. And I was getting kind of lonely, you know, I was like in one room and I'm with my clients, but there was like no community really. And so I started looking all over Newberg for space. Philip can tell you, I probably drove him insane going like, can I look at this? Can I look at that? And he's like, she's never going to get anything. And then the chamber building.
That's right. You're in the chamber.
I'm in the old chamber building, and they had moved out because of COVID, because they weren't using the space, you know, and they were moving. And so I went in there, and it was like, you know, it's like 1850 square feet. I'm like in, you know, 300 square feet. So it was like this huge leap that I didn't, you know, I just didn't know if I was ready for it. I was kind of scared. I was looking for something like half that size. But once I went into the space, it was like, I just knew it was the space. It had like a chandelier with like faux candles, and
It's perfect for you.
it was just perfect. It had rooms and sinks, and but it was way more expensive than I was anticipating or had like fathomed that I could do. But my husband luckily was supportive, because he was the one kind of like holding down the fort. And I just went for it during COVID, you know, like things were shut down. And I just kind of, I have this picture in my room. It says leap and the net will appear. And I just kept looking at that and reading that. And I just felt so spirit led, like so like led by forces outside of myself, that it was like following your calling. You know, you have this burning passion that you just have to do. And so I really depend a lot on my intuition and my heart.
I love that. We had a guest on a few weeks ago, and same thing. She was contemplating taking a big leap, and she said she saw a bumper sticker that said, "Let go, there's a net to catch you." And that's what she drove home, and like literally she's like, "It's the bumper sticker." Like, I love it how that we have these little defining moments, but I think like going back to what you said about really getting in tune with yourself, and so much of being an entrepreneur starts with mindset. So you got to a place where you were healthy and clear-minded about what direction you wanted to go, so you could really be open to taking that leap of faith, because it's definitely so much uncertainty, especially through COVID. I remember I opened up a fifth office during COVID, and I was like, what am I doing? Why am I renting space? Nobody's coming into offices right now. But it was that sometimes when things are scary like that is the best time to grow.
Absolutely. Yeah, you have to get out of that comfort zone, and things have been going, it's been a huge teaching for me. Like, it's high turnover a lot of times in this industry, and so we've had different practitioners. So I've learned a lot, but the space also is like, each room is represented by like a spirit animal. And so it's just like a very, I like for it to be like kind of a spiritual experience. If people want to take that piece away from it, like when you step in, you can kind of step into like a different reality and really like connect in with your true self, see what you need. It's like, even though if you're just getting a facial, it might seem superficial. I just like it to mean so much more than that. So to me, the practitioners are really important, right? Like, there needs to be something there that you're not just like mechanically doing things. Like, there needs to be that heart there. So I've been enjoying the journey of working with other estheticians, massage therapists, yoga instructors. We have our infrared sauna, and I want it to be more than just like a superficial day spa. I want it to have more meaning than that.
It's kind of rejuvenation time. And tell me a little bit about, I was just on a trip recently, and a good friend of mine, I'm exploring the ice bath. Thanks to her, I'm in my 40s and trying to run like I used to run, and I got all this inflammation. And so he was telling me about that, but then he said, what you really need is the infrared sauna. He said, that's the game changer. So tell me why like that, because not most spas around here anyway, I haven't seen have that.
The infrared sauna is, it's different than a traditional sauna because it heats you like on the inside out on a cellular level rather than just getting kind of blasted with topical heat. So when you go in, it's electrical. So there's panels where the wavelength is actually, so it's kind of like it's like a chamber. Mm-hmm. It's like a infrared sauna chamber, really. You're in this kind of unit and you're receiving that wavelength. And so it could help your body detoxify. It could help with arthritis. It basically taps into your ATP to tell your DNA to heal itself faster. So you could have faster recovery. Some people feel like they sleep better. It's interesting, too, because when you go into a traditional sauna and you're just like blasted with that heat, you start sweating right away. In this unit, it takes you like 15 minutes, 20 minutes to even start to sweat. And then when you do, it's like your whole body just starts sweating because it's like affecting you differently. So yeah, it can be really helpful. I like to go in there once a week if I got to schedule myself. So and that's another thing, like with self-care, it can be challenging because there could be like a self-worth thing there. Like, oh, I don't deserve, or there might be something where you're not doing as much for yourself because maybe there's just a lack of self-worth where you feel like you don't deserve it or something like that. So I try to like schedule my own self-care, like put it on the calendar. Not that I don't feel like I deserve it, but it gives you a little bit more structure because you might choose something else over the self-care. If you're like, oh, I'll just do that when I have free time, you might choose to do something for somebody else versus something for yourself. So I find that to be helpful.
We talked about that last week, how especially entrepreneurs, you get into that growth mode and we become obsessed with our goal and our idea and we forget self-care. Like I know I especially when I get into that, we're going in through a changing market, and so it's a little more drawing on our time. We're having to work twice as hard to get to where we were, to stay where we were, and then if we want to go beyond that, we have to work 3 times as hard. So you start making sacrifices. And I was talking to a few company owners this week at our conference, and they said there's just some things that are non-negotiables. Yeah. And I love seeing a health actually being a health spa instead of just going. I think a lot of people go to a spa for, well, maybe for relaxation, but they want that outward effect of like, oh, I'm going to have better skin, or I'm going to have, but really, what is it on the inside? Like, what does that self-care mean on the inside? Is this really rejuvenating you? Is this really helping you feel like you have more self-worth because you're taking care of yourself? It goes beyond just going and getting a facial.
Exactly. Yeah. And I think that's really key, like having something be non-negotiable. But like, I like to multitask like you probably do. So it's like if I'm in the infrared sauna reaping those benefits, I might be doing, an intentional meditation at the same time. Or if I'm doing yoga to work out, I'm also, maybe I have an intention or something that I'm trying to figure out or want answers for. And so yeah, just having intention around your self-care of like, okay, I'm getting this facial because I want to remove the dead skin cells, but do I want to like dismantle the thought form I have around aging, right? Is this anti-aging or is this pro-youth? Kind of changing your verbiage, because like we're gonna age. You can't stop it, and it's like we get to age. It's actually a luxury, the fact that we get to age and we get to have these bodies, and we've been given this sacred vessel is really powerful, and treating it as such. And we've all been given different unique gifts, and really tapping in. And like there's a saying like comparison is the death of joy. So if we're constantly comparing to other people, and then we're also setting this really high expectation, like for each other, for our fellow friends. And so there's just a lot that I think needs to be dismantled in the beauty industry. And I feel like it's starting, but then also there's social media and filters. And so there's just it's almost like a little war. It is. Of the people that are like trying to be like, no, why are we doing this to ourselves? And the people that are like, well, I like this stuff. And so it's complicated.
Well, and I think too, like the more we get focused on changing that appearance, like the more damaging it is to your self-worth. I used to tell people I was very comfortable always with my body. Even when I'd go up and down in weight, I'd still wear my bikini to the beach, even if I was 30 pounds heavier. And I used to tell my girlfriends, I was like, I have body image issues. I look in the mirror and I see a skinny person. And then I look at the pictures and I'm like, who is that person? Like, who is she? But
body double?
I think if I had gotten so focused about, and I credit it to the family I was raised in, they were just not materialistic about that at all. Like my mother was not that way. There wasn't like body shaming about anything. It was about being healthy. Yeah. And if you were going to work out, or if you were going to cut your hair, that you did it for yourself. You didn't do it so that others thought you looked good. You did it. So, but it's a constant struggle in your mind. You can have like the best mindset in the world is constantly beating you up with saying you're not good enough, or you should look like that person, or you should have this color of hair. You shouldn't be aging.
Yeah. You're always going to get kind of that critic, whether it's you or someone else. So yeah, it is hard.
It's very, it's interesting to me. So because I work so much with entrepreneurs, and like you were saying, you needed to go get a W-2 to feel like you could buy a home. And the realtor in me is like, you don't have to do it. But I know, but the thing is like, that's so unfair for our world to be that way, that it's not promoting entrepreneurs by saying, oh, to actually just be able to have the American dream, you're going to have to go get a job, versus being your own boss and building your own future and being an entrepreneur. And so I'm glad that there is opportunities out there now that maybe weren't there before, but I'd love to see more of that promotion of like, it's not just for those few. Like anybody could be their own boss and go out there and start their own business. For you right now though, what are you finding the most challenging? I know what my challenging things are being a business owner, but for you, what is it?
I think just finding the balance. I think I can be a workaholic. So I am like kind of constantly always working on, I'm learning to let go a lot more of like, so-and-so can do this. I don't have to do this piece. I think I can be a little bit controlling over like kind of like the brand and how it's represented and how the flow is, and kind of put all of that responsibility onto myself, where I'm learning to kind of let go and learning how to kind of delegate more. But I also foster kind of the entrepreneurial spirit in others, right? I'm bringing in practitioners who want to be independent. I'm not just like, you're working for me, but I'm offering opportunities for like commission to renting. So if they don't have client base, I'm helping them, get started. And then when they feel comfortable, they can start renting. So having that independence, but also kind of the comfort of there's someone there to help support you and guide you. So I think the biggest challenge has been just kind of having the shift of practitioners and being kind of in charge of all the bills, right? Makes it challenging. Like if somebody leaves, then all of a sudden, like everything kind of comes back on me financially, and there is some instability there. But I'm figuring it out. I've learned about the whole employee thing and taxes and even more in depth. Like you're taxed on just your stuff too. You have to pay taxes on just the stuff that's in your space. And they just expect for you to know that. Like they call you up and be like, how come you didn't pay the taxes on the stuff in your space? And you're like, what do you mean? They're like, you're supposed to know. So there's just like all of these little things. So then your brain is just kind of always on fire. So finding the balance of like, when I'm at home, I need to be home with my kids, right? And not like constantly checking my phone or, so I think I might have a little bit of like attention deficit, and having appointments is really helpful. So when I go home and don't have like structure, I have to really kind of hone in on some type of structure for myself and be like, this is home time.
Yeah, that's definitely, I hear that's one of the biggest struggles mostly for entrepreneurs is being able to have balance. And I've had some of them say there's no such thing. And then some say, you are what you create. I subcontract with a coaching company that, our head coach is all about living your life by design. And it is about creating your own structure. And I'm learning now, the phone can get turned off and nobody's going to do that. We're not saving lives.
That's true.
And they're going to find the answer usually if I don't answer for an hour. But it's really hard. Like my customers are my employees and my agents, whereas yours, you have folks that are inside your organization working with you, much like we have, where their agents are independent contractors, but then you also have the consumer out there that they might call somebody else if you don't answer.
Exactly. Yeah, you kind of like, you want to take care of your clients, and that's really important. But also, like, I guess setting a standard for like, do I need to respond back to you in 5 minutes? Or I guess I think you can find balance. You just, you have to create it. And it is challenging.
I know that we're in the midst of starting business planning for our agents this week. And I always have a component to that. I always call it time auditing. And where's your time going during your day? Because oftentimes we get to the end of the business plan. They're like, I don't have time for all that. There's no way I'm going to get to do that. But then we start looking at where they actually spend their time during the day. Kind of like when we do a budget and we look at where you spend your money. But when you break it down like that, when you think about doing a budget for your time, like you do a budget for your money, it's really eye-opening how much time, and we only have so many minutes left. I have a friend that he measures life in summers. He always says, I only have this many summers left. And I'm like, that's scary. That's a terrible way to look at it. When you put it in perspective like that, you really start thinking about where you're spending your time. And I think for an entrepreneur, that helps you create balance. I know when I've had that awakening, I have a little 7-year-old. I don't know how old your children are, but I know that time is,
you don't get it back. Yeah. I have a 17 and a 13-year-old. And so like, I'm literally seeing that my little baby is now about to be 18. And then there's all these things where you're like, I didn't tell him this yet, or I didn't teach him that yet. And so time is our biggest asset. And I love that. I'm going to do that. I'm going to do a time audit.
Yeah. And it's just like I don't know if you've ever been on one of those diets where you write down everything you eat. So it's just like that. It's like you write down everything you do. You just do it even if you just do it for like 3 or 4 days. I usually like people to do it for a whole week.
Okay.
Because different days suck up different parts of your time. But
yeah, that's true.
And then you go and you look at like, okay, what can I cut out? Just like you would your financial budget. Like, what can I Of
I
course.
love that. I'm going to do that. I appreciate that information.
So the tip of the day, right? Keep track of your time. I have just enjoyed so much hearing your story and just that little bit about your journey with your health is so eye-opening. I'd love to know more about like how you healed yourself through that journey. I definitely have a lot of friends that got that peer pressure, but then even more of them that have had cancer and had to get implants because of that and the different health things that it's caused them. So I think that's wonderful that you're willing to tell your story about that.
Yeah, I would love to share more. There's so many resources and things I can send you about that and ways to heal your body after going through that. So
I love that. I appreciate that. And I love hearing about your spa, and we'd love to link up your information and your story to this and hopefully put some more awareness out there. I know we're running out of time, but really quick, some of the services that you have through your other colleagues that work with you at the spa that you provide beyond what you do. Could you give us a little rundown of what?
Yeah. So myself, I'm an esthetician and I do facials, peels, microcurrent, light therapy. I specialize in Brazilian sugaring, where you use a sugar paste to remove the hair. So that's kind of like my specialty. And that is a 5,000-year-old ancient form of hair removal. So it's more natural and it's really fun to play with the sugar. It's my favorite thing to do. And I also offer energy work for people that are wanting to connect in deeper with themselves, kind of discover things, about themselves. We have Alyssa, who's an advanced esthetician, and so she does microneedling, hair removal, facials, eyelash extensions. She's going to be bringing in some laser treatments soon, so that's really exciting. Love having her energy there. Lily is an esthetician, and she also helps with projects at the spa, working the front desk, and she's a wonderful, bubbly energy to have around. And she offers like facials, back facials, eyelash treatments, things like that. And then we have Melissa that just joined us, and she's a massage therapist, and she's amazing. Everyone's loving her work. And Heather does yoga on Sundays, and it's kind of like it's called booty yoga, B-U-T-I, not like booty. But booty means a secret that's been kept hidden. So her yoga is really unique in the fact that she's kind of taking you on a journey. So it's kind of like energy work, cardiovascular, and stretching. And we have our infrared sauna. So, and we do have one room left that we're looking for next, unique person to join us. So I'm learning to kind of be in the flow with that. Like, that's one big thing I've learned with this space is that, like, I can't force anything. I can't really control much. So I'm just like, I just pray and try to, work on myself and just know that we're all a kind of a part of this web, and that what's supposed to find us will find us in the right time.
I love that. I love that from watching an infomercial on massage school all the way to owning your own business. And that sometimes it's just that one little thing that inspires us. So I appreciate you telling your story. I hope we've inspired maybe some other young entrepreneurs out there to take that leap. And we look forward to seeing you on the next one.